On today's episode, we've got guests from the Followers of the Force podcast. Join us as we nerd out about Star Wars, its current state, and its future, especially as we're approaching Star Wars Celebration. On today's episode of Certain Point of View. Welcome to Certain Point of View. I'm Addy Thomas.
And I'm Ben Milton.
Thanks for joining us on our Sometimes Star Wars podcast. Today we are having guests from the Followers of the Force podcast. We're going to be joining that conversation in a moment, but I do want to remind you that you can check out other podcasts that are part of the Certain Point of View family. You can check out everything from, if you're a huge Mass Effect fan, Reignite is a great option. I'd also recommend, completely selfishly, to check out Real Movie News and Reviews because it's a podcast that I'm on with our buddy Hans.
And it's an excellent podcast.
Aw, thanks.
You know what? There's a common ground between this excellent podcast and that excellent podcast, and it's not me or Hans. It's you, my friend.
Okay, that's it. I don't have Tree Fitty. If you like, I don't know what you want right now.
No, I'm just saying. Like, you're
thanks, buddy.
good. You're very good. Like
Thank you.
You're a student of the game.
Well, I'm excited about starting our next podcast very soon. I even started our Google Doc to start prepping for it.
I know.
Did you take a look at it?
No, I couldn't.
Yeah,
because I would just go and buy.
What do you mean going by?
Oh, I would.
I didn't put the cereals in yet.
Oh, then no.
I put the cartoons because we need to pair the cereals with the cartoons.
Oh, I thouut you had already done that part. That's why I was like, no, I can't even look.
Oh no, I haven't taken the time to put the cereals in just yet.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Because we want to put plenty of thought into this the next podcast that will be coming soon, very soon.
I still kind of want to do it as a video series.
Yeah. Maybe, I don't know. Right, for now we're not going to, just because of the production work that's going to take. But maybe one day, as there are other projects that you and I are working on that are very important, that need to be a higher priority. That's actually a higher priority.
Yes, I actually do.
When we get that, maybe we'll bring video back to some of the shows that we've been doing. In fact, any of these shows that we record, we may be doing some video for again.
You used to do video for this one, right?
Yeah, we did. So that might come back in the near future. So you can check out that along with all of our other podcasts on our website, certainpov.com. We're going to join the conversation. We didn't even do a proper intro with the Followers of the Force guys because even while we were just setting up the recording, we started nerding out. So the conversation begins even before we introduce the guys. So go ahead and join the conversation. We'll join the conversation right now. The Ewok debate is a big one for me and Ben because I'm an Ewok lover and Ben is an Ewok hater. So, you know.
You hate them, Ben, because they're cannibals?
Because it's because they're completely unplausible as an actual threat to a stormtrooper. That's why.
It's like pandas attacking a group of like Roman soldiers in full kit.
Yeah, it's a group of panda babies. Like, it's not even a full-grown bear.
See, I was thinking about the Ewoks this weekend because I was like, when they catch Han and Luke, they're gonna cook them, but they don't even kill them first. They just put them right on the fire,
like straight to it. Yeah,
like straight to it. I'm like, I
didn't think about that. That's pretty barbaristic.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Any group of humans that like does that, it doesn't at least try and kill the food first. They like burn them alive.
Fresh meat,
like crabs or a lobster.
Yeah, they didn't even. Yeah, they are little savages, but they're not threatening. Like, there's no reason if you're in a stormtrooper gear to be threatened by these things.
All right, back off, Ben. Back off. That's not the topic for today.
And not only that, but those guys totally could have gotten out of those those rope bindings totally easily.
Right.
So.
Yeah, there's a lot of unplausibility about Endor.
Look, I yearned for a time where the thing that Star Wars fans were the most upset about was the Ewoks.
Oh,
I know, right?
Oh, for sure. This is an interesting time to be a Star Wars fan.
Yeah. Like, I yearned for the days where people just hated the Ewoks, and that was the only thing they hated about Star Wars.
And this was as heated as the debate ever got.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
People still laughing about how absurd it is.
Right.
So, I don't know if you ever listened to us. We all got our own strengths, you know. Like, I'm the theme girl, you know. Dave's the organized one and keeps us all on track. Jason's the R2-D2 hater.
I don't hate him. We have issues.
I feel the same way about BB-8.
Well, no, my issues with R2-D2 is that No, is that he knows everything and he doesn't say anything. Like, it's not they can't understand what he's talking about, but like he was there for all of the prequels and knew everything. And you know, when Obi-Wan's like, "Yeah, your father was killed by this guy named Darth Vader," like, Marty didn't say crap.
Just kind of wanders off into a corner.
He doesn't like pull Luke aside and go, "No, dude, Darth Vader is your father." This old man doesn't know what he's talking about.
That's true, because they have full conversations. What's interesting, like, I'd like to imagine, though, R2 also has that sort of certain point of view philosophy that Obi-Wan does.
It is true. Like, I mean, he didn't see him, you know, he didn't see him cut Anakin's arms and legs off, but he did see them start the fight. Yeah. And then he only saw Obi-Wan come back. So,
yeah. My theory is it's under some kind of Force mandate to stay quiet and help the Force work itself out. That's my theory.
Force mandate, really?
Yeah, but when Dave and I were doing the commentary yesterday for Attack of the Clones, we just decided that some things are just plot holes.
Right.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're just like, you know what? That's just a plot hole.
Yeah.
There's no canon explanation as to why this happened or that happened. It's just a plot hole.
And it's okay. At some point, we're looking a little too close.
Right.
Right. And my kid will be like, "Mom, why does this happen?" And I'm like, "Because it's in the script."
Right. Because Dave Filoni and George Lucas are gods.
Do not question them.
Well, we'll actually just jump in with what we've already talked about, just getting to know each other.
All right.
But yeah, so we're so excited to have you guys from the Followers of the Force podcast. We got David, Jason, and Gwen on
Gwnedy.
Gwen or Gwnedy?
It's Gwnedy, but that's okay. I mean, it's fine.
Yeah,
really.
Well, no, I mean, no. Trust me, Addy is simplifying Adonijah, so you know it's.
Is that how you pronounced it? Okay.
Yeah.
Where does that come from?
It's actually from the Bible. It's one of King David's sons, and it's and he's one of a pretty bad son. Yeah.
He's a pretty bad son?
Yeah, he was killed pretty early on. Yeah, because he rebelled.
I like him.
You were named after the rebel.
I like him.
I know it's kind of weird too, because it's just like it's not quite Kylo Ren bad, but like he did sort of like a non-violent revolution to coup, but then it failed, and he just kind of had to like
Korg.
Yes, exactly. You know what? I kind of like it now. Like Korg.
Oh, Addy. You're not Korg.
I like to. Well, I'm not quite a gentle giant, but I like to think I'm a little bit more.
Print enough pamphlets to your revolution.
With my stepdad,
we can talk it over. We're going to talk it over lunch,
right? Hello, my name is Korg. I'm made of rocks.
Here's Mick.
Right. To the revolution.
Do you guys think that since Taika Waititi is doing the voice of IG-88 in The Mandalorian, that he'll sound like Korg?
I was actually having that exact discussion because I would
love that. I think that would be great.
I think it would be such a great mix for like the group of bounty hunters to suddenly have this Kiwi accent coming out of this robot, you know, coming out of this droid. I'm sorry.
Which is kind of that sing-songy, like we're gonna go start a revolution. You want to come with it? Like just that kind of a thing.
Exactly.
Taika is so great. He's just amazing.
Yeah, I'm so excited for him to get to play into the Star Wars universe. You know, even if it's just a couple episodes that he's directing with Favreau, it is. I mean, Ragnarok is like top 5 MCU movie for me. So. Yeah, I'm excited to see more. I think it's
my favorite outside of, the Avengers main, the get-togethers.
The big ones.
Right.
But yeah. But no, I
Avengers
love
barbecue.
And Loki is my favorite in all of Marvel. I love Loki, and I have it all figured out with Loki too.
You think he's coming back?
So you think he's still alive?
No, he's dead. Okay. I have it all figured out.
Is that what you have figured out?
Here's the thing. No, get this. Okay, so Tom Hiddleston, he's not coming back after this to play Loki. He's getting too old, and he's off his contract. So he did die. We heard the crack of the neck and everything. Now, here's the thing. In Nordic mythology, and look how, if you notice in the poster, Valkyrie is astride her horse. Because he died redeemed, and they even talked about that. Tom Hiddleston discussed how this was a large hero's journey and redemption arc for Loki. And he finally, when he died defending and declaring himself Odin's son, defending his brother, and saying, "I assure you, the sun will rise again." So he will go to Valhalla because he meets the requirements for going to Valhalla.
Uh-huh.
Now, in Nordic mythology, only a Valkyrie can bring someone back from Valhalla. And she has to be astride her horse, and she is. So I think she's going to go back, and we already know that he's in the movie in Endgame. So Valkyrie will go back and get him, and they'll work together for one last time. And then at the end, he'll have to return to Valhalla. And Valkyrie will have to take him. So my theory is that at the end, after they have this one last brother get together, they're going to have this really sad, very big tearjerker, very emotional send off because Loki didn't get that send off that he deserved. And so they're going to have this emotional send off, and Valhalla, he'll go back to Valhalla with Valkyrie, and everyone will say goodbye, and that way you know for sure that he is gone. And then Thor, he's done too because he can't continue to play Thor, but they have to show him going off to restart Asgard, right? So they could never have Thor without Loki. The two are a matched pair. So if Loki is off to Valhalla, they're going to have to show Thor retire to rebuild Asgard on some other planet and become king and take up the mantle of his father. And so that's how they're going to say goodbye to the brothers and move on to other characters in the MCU.
I am totally here for
she's
all
strong
of it.
with themes. This is what she's talking about.
I love it. I am totally I'm so here for all of that.
I don't care what happens in the movie. That's my headcanon going forward.
Right?
That has to happen.
I promise you, I have it all figured out. I swear to God, it's going to happen this way because it has to. The themes are perfect for it, and it's set up that way. The sun will shine in Asgard again, and there's a reason Loki had to die with a weapon in his hand. And everyone's like, well, why did he do such a stupid thing? Well, he had to in order to get to Valhalla. And why is there one Valkyrie who survived? Why is there a Valkyrie? Why did Valkyrie live and not turn to dust? Well, she has to live in order to bring Loki back temporarily from Valhalla to finish his mission.
Oh, it's great.
I'm so excited because it's funny because I didn't really get into Thor until Ragnarok, really.
I know, because it was not really...
Wasn't well done.
I got into Loki separately and Thor and Loki together, but not Thor separate, And so this is such a perfect ending for the brothers.
It's very good.
Yeah.
It's very good.
Yeah.
I'm excited for that. And I like when things have that kind of that solidly I'll be willing to I'm always willing to trade certain types of plot holes for strong thematic endings and thematic consistency.
Thank you. Good.
It's one of the things that always bothered me about the ending for the Dark Knight trilogy because it didn't feel thematically sound at the end of all of that. Yeah. So, and it's one of the things that I love about The Last Jedi, and I wish more people were on board for that. I think there are a lot of people on board for it, but there are some vocal fans that aren't always into it.
I think when they see it happen, then it'll all come together. Because remember, when Empire Strikes Back, because I'm old enough, and so is Jason. I'm not sure how old you guys are, but I'm old enough to remember how in Empire Strikes Back, between Empire and Return of the Jedi, there was a big, huge thing about how Han didn't deserve Leia, and Luke should have her, and blah blah blah, and all these things. And then at the end, everyone was like, "I love it. It worked out great."
Yeah, it paid off. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're right, and I think that if there had been a internet and a social media setting like that, because I am old enough to remember it. I'm 45 now, so
I'm 43.
Yay! I remember that, and I remember debating my friends and stuff like that about how Empire was, and I remember as being a kid, I remember not liking it nearly as much as I do now as an adult, and after seeing Return of the Jedi.
Backlash where there was TLJ, and the reason why I didn't get as much backlash, I mean, as far as cohesive backlash, is because of the lack of that social media presence.
Yeah.
Today there would have been just as much hatred for Empire, but now look at it now. Everyone embraced
it's their favorite, yeah.
I like Empire, but I'll be honest, it's because it's the least fun. Well, no, that's not true. It's not least fun. It is. I like it probably the least of the original trilogy.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I still love it.
Elements.
but like sometimes when I sit down to watch a Star Wars movie, I just want to watch something fun.
Right.
And there's a lot of deep stuff in there that I don't want.
Yeah.
Like sometimes you want to watch a Star Wars movie, you want to think, and there's other times you just want them to shoot stuff and fight with lightsabers.
You have to prepare yourself emotionally for those deeper themes, you know?
Right.
I mean, if you're going to hang out and just have a beer, I mean, The Force Awakens is better, right? Than The Last Jedi.
Totally, yeah.
So.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm with you, because there, because there's sometimes, like, I just want to see a Death Star explode, you know?
Right.
Thank you. Yes.
But the endearing quality of Star Wars for me is always going to be Dagobah with Yoda.
Oh yeah, I mean
know?
all that stuff is awesome. There's so much of the Empire Strikes Back I love, but like my criteria usually for like popping in a Star Wars movie is like I'm bored. I got like 2.5 hours to kill.
Yeah.
And you know what am I kind of in the mood for? And I'm usually just kind of in the mood for just something fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. So which one? So Jason, which one do you tend to pick in those kind of scenarios?
About honestly, like the first 45 minutes of Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
Just that's really up until Luke rejoins the fleet. That's what that's my favorite sequence of any of the movies. I just love the whole.
That is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
The whole from the beginning to the end, from the droids coming in to like Luke finding out he has to face Vader again. Because I like that little bit of depth at the end when the ghost has to sit down on a log because he's tired.
I'm an old man ghost.
I'm such an old ghost. I have to sit on a log. And it's one of those deals like that's just a plot hole, but I understand because having like I've done like theater and stuff, and I understand it's like no, you have two actors here. You want this intimate scene. They need to kind of sit down,
right?
And it would look weird if like Luke was sitting and Obi-Wan was standing, but yeah, you have a ghost sitting on a log.
Yeah.
You should allowed to be comfortable.
What's your favorite? If you had to pick one, just throw in.
Yeah, David.
Rogue One.
Oh, okay.
Just because there are a lot of heavy moments in that movie, but there's
it's
also
separate
a
enough
lot of
from the rest of the.
Right. Yeah. There's a lot of great action. There's a lot of callbacks to certain characters and tie-ins to, Rebels, and it's just a great story with characters that you're not wondering who's her dad, who's this person supposedly related to,
and that last 15 minutes. Oh my God.
Yeah. That battle. Once the Alliance is there at Scarif, it's probably some of the best stuff in Star Wars.
And Vader and all his Vader-y glory.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's hard to ignore that.
Yeah, I'm so in for Rogue One is one that I absolutely love. I love more Sheridan Wayne and Baze Malbus. I like that movie feels very much like an adventure movie that just different. I mean, it is what it is. It's different characters in the Star Wars universe, and it expands it out in a way that I love for the same reasons that I love Rebels. I tend to be more likely actually right now to put old episodes of Rebels on than anything else. But Last Jedi has been the thing for me that I keep on coming back to more than anything else. And before that, I'd actually say Return of the Jedi is my turn on for a good time if I want a Rancor, everybody looking at each other before jumping into the Sarlacc. Jumping into the Sarlacc, and
I feel like now I have to amend mine because I do skip Jedi Rocks when I watch it.
Yes. Oh, every time you have to. That's so tough. Which is funny.
Somebody who's made the Blu-rays knew what they were doing because right at the beginning, if you skip to the next chapter, you miss all of Jedi Rocks.
So
it goes right to Leia bringing Chewie in.
Oh, so they
good.
They knew that was hot garbage.
They knew. Yeah.
Somebody at Lucasfilm was like, we'll
For
do
me,
this.
it's a total tie. I love Episode 4, and I love The Force Awakens. Both of them are so fun just to throw in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love Episode 4 too. Like just for a good time, I'll watch.
That's the one you'll turn on.
Yeah, for a good time. Yeah,
definitely.
It's funny because that's the one I probably watched the least because I feel like over the last 40 years I've seen it so many times.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
That I'm just like, well, I don't need to watch it again. I love it, and when I do sit down, like if I catch it like on TBS or something, I'll sit and watch it till the end.
Right.
No matter what part I
it just
pop in
never
at.
gets old for me ever. I throw myself into it.
By the way, it doesn't get old.
I throw myself into the world.
It doesn't get old for me either, but I just, when I'm picking them, I'm like, well, I've seen this like once a year for the last 40 years. I don't need to watch it again.
Well, are any of you like Lord of the Rings fan?
Yes. Oh, I'm a diehard
Very
Tolkien
much
fan.
Huge diehard. hard. And for me, I can go into Lord of the Rings, and when I do, I completely shut out the rest of the world, and I'm there. I'm in Middle Earth, and that's kind of what happens in episode 4 for me.
Yeah. Oh, totally. And Fellowship is what I like
it's
about
also my favorite.
Yep. That's exactly for me as well. Because it's funny because I think what sometimes goes unappreciated by fans, like, because we remember big moments a lot of the times, but I think what's nice about a saga like both Lord of the Rings and Star Wars are the quiet moments are just as impactful as the big bombastic moments too, you know?
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes.
Oh yeah, like one of my favorite scenes in A New Hope is Luke coming back to the farm and seeing seeing it burning and seeing like just a real quick look on Mark Hamill's face as he's like taking in everything that's just happened and
realizing he's free at last.
Oh my god, that's such a twisted way to look at it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, there's like blackened skeletons.
Yeah.
So dark.
Well, there's so much horror in that moment, and it feels like it's such a shock in that moment.
Yeah, I remember
like Aunt Beru.
Right,
who was so
Aunt
sweet.
Beru.
Yeah, the blue milk. Yeah,
Right.
Uncle Owen kind of had it coming. Let's be honest.
He was kind of douchey, but Aunt Beru. Aunt
Beru, yeah.
yeah, Beru didn't deserve
Stone
that.
Cold Heart. Right.
Yeah, that wasn't cool.
Although probably the uncoolest thing is for a while there they were fan made, but they were before they made like actual Aunt Beru and Uncle Owen action figures. It was just two charred bodies and like
Oh my god.
So disgusting and so awesome at the same time.
Right.
I thought those were official the first time I saw that.
That's like the biggest troll ever.
Why would they do that?
That's the sickest. Lucasfilm is sick. I probably would have collected them though. That's one that I maybe wouldn't have given up.
Right. So when we're recording this, well, we're releasing this a week later, so we're a week away from Celebration at this point. And
Are you guys going?
No.
Sadly,
Okay.
no.
No.
Yeah.
I have family and kids and job requirements.
Yeah.
Jason's the lucky one here.
Yeah, I'm going for a day, but I used to live in Chicago, so I'm just seeing a bunch of friends and stuff too while I'm there.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
But I before I even knew what day, I'm like, let me pick a day to go. Like, what day I'm good? So I picked Friday, and that's the episode 9 days. So I'm super stoked about that.
I'm so jealous.
You've got a live tweet or something from that.
For sure.
Well, what sucks is I got my ticket through StubHub because they were sold out. And so everybody's been on Twitter talking about how they're entering the lottery and doing all this stuff, and I can't get it because I don't have my ticket yet.
You don't have the ticket.
I won't
till
get
you
my ticket
there.
till like the day before, and I pick it up in Chicago because they were going to mail it to me here, but it wasn't going to arrive until the day I left.
Yeah, that's not good.
Yeah, so I got to pick it up in Chicago. So
All right. Well,
I'll be in the building.
You'll be in the building. Well, you'll be able to watch the panel even if you don't get in. You'll be able to watch the panel while you're there, right?
And you're still part of the environment. I think that's the special thing right there.
Well, that's the other thing I'm looking forward to. I mean, as much as I want to be like front row on the panel, I've never been to a Star Wars Celebration before, so I'm very much looking forward to like just being immersed in the environment and stuff like that.
Are you gonna cosplay?
No. No.
Oh, you don't
No.
do that? Oh my gosh.
No,
I go
it's
full. Last time I went to a Comic-Con, I went full Gamora.
Oh, that's dope.
I kind of really need to see
Totally green.
pictures of that.
And everything.
Yeah, that needs to go up on social media.
right.
I'm expecting that on the Twitter account.
No, I'm not big into costumes. I appreciate the people that do them though. Like I'm like, especially because some of these people put a lot of like they look like they just stepped right out of the movie. Some of them.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't have that. I don't have that kind of patience to make a costume. So
Yeah, I don't either. I love cosplay. I love watching cosplayers.
Yeah.
yeah.
Addy lost a bet to me a couple years ago, and I made him go to Awesome Con here in D.C. dressed as Darth Jar Jar.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and it was awesome. It was
kind of cool.
awesome. People loved it.
Yeah, no, people
so
loved it.
much.
Breathing was a whole other thing in that mask. Because
So you guys live in the DC area
Yes.
then?
What's that?
Okay. So how long have you guys been friends?
Over a decade.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. We met working together at a radio station.
That's cool.
And Star Wars was one of the first things that we bonded over because we couldn't stand each other up until then.
Yeah, well, it wasn't so much we couldn't stand each other, but it was sort of like cautiously like at a distance until we learned we were Star Wars fans, and then like video games and everything, like it just like
snowballed.
It was totally like that moment from Step Brothers, like, oh my God, did we just become best friends?
I love that movie.
Yeah.
Now, have you guys ever been to Celebration before?
No. Have you?
Yes, I went to the one in 2017 here in Orlando.
Okay.
And I wanted to talk to you guys about the lottery. I know you guys aren't going, but the whole thing with the lottery and not having to queue overnight for these panels.
Yeah.
I stayed overnight on the Thursday night waiting for the 40th panel on Friday, and on Friday night waiting for the Last Jedi panel on Saturday. So I stayed in the convention center for 2 nights, and I'm getting closer to the point where I think the lottery is a great idea because, man, you lose basically a day where you could really be seeing stuff in that in the hall and taking advantage of so many other things where you're not saying, okay, I got to get in line at 12 in the afternoon to get into this panel at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. You know, it takes away a lot of that
enjoyment of the rest of the play.
Yeah. Like, even though cool stuff happens at night, we had Ryan Johnson go in and sign badges. We had Ashley Eckstein take cupcakes. So cool stuff happened, but like, you pay the price to, like, with your back.
I don't know, to the togetherness. I like to be with my people. Like, as soon as someone tells me something about Star Wars or like nerdy stuff, I'm like, and I can actually talk to them.
Yeah. But no, you're right, because that's one thing I remember talking to a buddy of mine, the guy who actually really got me into Star Wars. We got a chance to camp out for Revenge of the Sith. But I mean, when was the last time, like, now with reserved seating, which I definitely prefer, being able to reserve a seat for a movie now. But like the line experience has totally disappeared. Like, just the line to buy tickets was an experience, and then the line to get a good seat in the theater was a whole other experience. And that sort of camaraderie that you would have for every big nerd movie. Because I remember having that line for Spider-Man, for Batman. It was
Lord of the Rings.
For all the Lord of the Rings movies and some of the Harry Potters. Mm-hmm. It's
I as an older fan, I really appreciate the lottery.
Yeah,
I really appreciate the lottery. It's harder and harder as I get older to stay up all night. Much less like sleep, like half sleep on a floor surrounded by thousands of people. Like, that's just really hard for me to do. Because I got to take care of my kids the next day too. Yeah, so it's hard. So I appreciate it. Like, to me, it's kind of like when I understand it, but I also kind of have softened on my position on this, and Addy's going to make fun of me for it. But it's like classic WoW versus WoW now, where like it's much more accessible.
Yeah,
the game is much more accessible to players than it was initially. Like, you had to be a hardcore raider and play like 60 hours a week and fight like hell to get into a 40-man group to see the end game of World of Warcraft Vanilla. Now you log in, you queue, you're in, and you get to see everything. So to me, like, but I feel like that's a good thing. Like, that
the accessibility
gives more people. You don't have to.
I'm sure the vendors appreciate it too.
Look, let's be honest. I mean, if you're going to Star Wars Celebration, you're a hardcore fan. You don't have anything to prove to anybody.
Oh yeah.
You know. So like, why like try to have that separation and just make it random and that way people know and can expect it and can make plans. That way they're not in line and they don't feel disappointed if they still don't make it in. Like, it is what it is. I think it's a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because, man, there was a thing that happened with the 40th panel where, and I don't know if you guys have spoken to anyone who went through it, but the line management that night was so bad that some people who were at the front of the line and they were a shoo-in to get into that room for the 40th panel, because the line management was so bad, they didn't even get in.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't that they couldn't sit at the front or the middle. No, they didn't even get into the room.
Yeah, so they sat there for how many hours?
Yeah, probably close to a day, maybe even more. Yeah. Because when I went with my dad, and my dad's in his mid-50s. He camped out with me, and I don't know how he did it, but he did it.
Right.
And, you know, that night he was like, this is really bad, but I'm not doing this tomorrow. You want to stay for The Last Jedi? Do it. I'll come later. And I did
Save me a seat.
Yeah, and I did it because, you know, I was, let's see, 2017. I was 21. I'm 23 now.
Okay.
I'm like, I can do this.
Sure.
No problem.
Yeah.
So I did it. But man, I got to tell you, getting to be in those two panels, it was one of the best experiences ever.
Well, I remember just how excited I was, like, watching it live over the internet at work.
Yeah, I know. I'm at my cubicle, and I'm, like, trying to stifle excited
Squeals.
screams. Yeah.
I just went into...
I do the same thing. I keep... like minimize, and then as soon as my boss walks away, I might pull it back up.
I worked at a radio station. I went into a studio, turned on the recording sign so nobody would come in, and just put a mic in front of my face like I was recording something. I just sat there and watched it through the speakers, and it was fantastic. But I don't imagine that it was anywhere near as cool as actually being there.
Yeah,
dude, seeing John Williams there was like the cherry on top, because everyone's like, wait, why are they opening a curtain? And then everybody looked to the right, and he's there conducting the orchestra.
Oh my god,
and it was
I would
unbelievable.
Lose it. That would be so cool.
Yeah.
Especially now, you probably got one of the last performances.
As somebody who's going to Celebration for the first time, I was kind of happy that they were. I mean, I can't enter it. I didn't realize at the time I couldn't enter because I don't have my ticket. But I wasn't looking forward to sleeping on the floor at the McCormick place.
Right.
Yeah.
Overnight. Especially because I have a hotel room. I'm like, well, why am I paying $100 a night for a hotel room if I'm going to sleep on the floor?
Well, you got to have some place.
$100 a day for a place to keep my stuff.
Yeah,
That's
exactly. I was like, yes, you got to have some place to put all that swag that you're going to get off the vendors.
Yeah, I'm already scared of how episode 9 drunk I'm going to be. Trailer.
So is that what is your number one, like the panel you're looking forward to most at Celebration? I mean, obviously, I know episode 9 is the panel that you're going to be there for, but is there anything else outside of episode 9 that you're excited to hear from or see on YouTube later?
Mandalorian.
Yep.
Yes.
That's my number 2 is Mandalorian, and then probably Clone Wars after that.
Yeah.
That's a good list.
Yeah, I'm not going to Disney anytime soon, so I'll wait for Galaxy's Edge for when it opens. Dave will go; he'll tell me all about it.
Right. Yeah, I think we're at that point too, where we're like, well, we might wait until they have both exhibits open, and then go for it.
Yeah, hopefully.
I mean, it sounds great, but like I've blown a bunch of money to go to Chicago. I have money to blow to go out to California or to Orlando.
Right.
Exactly.
Right. What are you guys thinking about the Mandalorian? Like, what are your expectations for the Mandalorian? Gwen, I'll ask you.
Well, for me, the Mandalorian isn't as big as the upcoming trilogies and the episode 9, because I'm more into as my guys know, I'm more into the Force side of Star Wars how the Force, connects everything together, and I do like the more niche stories, but when I watch the niche stories, I'm looking to see how they connect to the whole, as opposed to specifically the story itself. So I'm not as excited. I think Jason is the one that's really geeked about the Mandalorian.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're not excited you're not as excited about it either, David?
I'm excited about it, but like for whatever reason, man, I am really looking forward to taking it back to Celebration, the panel for Jedi Fallen Order.
Yes, me too.
I have really missed sort of the old school Star Wars games that really focused on story instead of multiplayer.
Yeah.
So like tomorrow, I'm speaking with Alex Kane, he wrote the making of book of Knights of the Old Republic. So I really want that era of Star Wars games to come back, and if we get that with this game, I think that's going to be what I'm most excited for, because it will be canon. It will influence like everything that happens, and the history of what we know. So I think that'll be my number one and number two, aside from episode 9 and, the stuff that we're obviously excited about. I'm really excited for the Benioff and Weiss trilogy, hoping that the Old Republic rumors are true.
Oh, me too. Yeah. I think we've had an episode on this, and we talked about how we hoped it was true because of how they could finally describe how the Force starts to fracture and the philosophy behind it starts to fracture from between the Sith and between the Jedi, and the slow breaking down of what the Jedi originally believed from the Prime Jedi into the fractured Jedi and the corruptness that you saw in the prequel trilogy. And it would be really cool if they did something about that, and they had a main storyline that showed that the Force arc with the science arc mixed together, but start to show you the breakdown of the philosophies.
So that's a very interesting take on that, because that's always kind of like the way I've tried to interpret it, because I've kind of felt, and it's not so much a disappointment, because storytelling evolves, and I think some people don't realize, with creative decisions that are made as time goes on, certain things are retconned and changed here and there. But it almost feels like Lucasfilm is still committed to, and I'm not sure how to interpret this right, but it's always the Jedi are always the good guys, and the Sith, any Darksider is always a bad guy. Where, which I think is something that hurt the prequels for me, where I wanted to see the corruption within the Jedi Order,
and you have to take it back to you have to take the soul story back to its fairy tale grandiose roots that connect us all as a people, that explain the human condition through fairy tales.
Right.
Yeah.
You have to take it back to that. Otherwise, you're just going to have niche films, and the only thing left, as far as you're just going to have the episodic films, and that's it to hold on to. And we need to have that grandiosity, those fairy tales back.
Exactly. And I like your idea of this being sort of like a splintering of some sort of faith before, some sort of philosophy before. And it's one of the things that I love about what Rebels added to the mix with the Bendu and with the different, the world between worlds, and all sorts of elements like that. All the supernatural stuff. I'm interested to see if Resistance has any of that to offer us in the future. Right now, it doesn't feel that way.
But if they do, it'll be just small references. What I'm looking for is a major picture that takes us back to the roots and focuses directly on that. You know what I mean?
Well, let me ask you this. Do you think whenever we see Ahsoka and Sabine next, and the whole search for Ezra and Thrawn and all of that kind of story, do you think there's a chance for some more of that? Since it seems like the unknown regions keep on becoming more and more important in a lot of the stories that have been coming out.
And I think that you're going to see that more tie into episode 9, and as far as the unknown, they're definitely hinting at the unknown regions being important for episode 9. But when you're talking about the world between worlds and the father and the sister and the brother, and that, when Rian Johnson was making The Last Jedi, that he came out and right out said that was his main inspiration for The Last Jedi. He took it back to its thematic roots, and so I really do believe that the next major trilogy will be an episodic type feel, and will take us back. It'll have to be before the Skywalkers, because even if you're in the world after the Skywalkers, even a mention of the Skywalkers will take away from. They'll steal the show. They'll steal that scene. They'll overpower it, and so you need to have a time before the Skywalkers, and maybe even show how maybe this family, whatever family they focus on, culminates and ends in the last survivor and Shmi Skywalker, for example, and make that at the end. And that's how you have the connective tissue between, the episodic films that we already have and the new ones they're creating. But it would have to be a prior thing, before the time of the Skywalkers.
Yeah. I'm excited for that. I really do. I'm in the same camp as you guys. I really do hope Benioff and Weiss are bringing us something older and in the
grander in scope.
Yeah.
And look what they do. Look at Game of Thrones.
So yeah,
this is what they do. Why bring on Benioff and Weiss unless you were trying to capture that grandiose world building?
Right.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. It makes they're the right choice for it, at least on paper.
Absolutely.
I agree. I would like to see him go farther back, because you can't really go forward in time at all, because then it would be like,
otherwise the Skywalkers will take even a mention of them.
Either that or if you go too far, so you go, all right, well, maybe if you go a couple thousand years in the future or whatever.
And if you go too far, then
it's yesterday.
Tissue.
It's not a long time ago. It's yesterday across the universe.
If you go to a galaxy far, far away, it just says like last Thursday in a galaxy far, far away.
Yeah, exactly.
It's funny.
That ruins the whole.
Yeah, I hadn't really thought about going into the future for the Star Wars timeline.
Like, you can't go too far.
A long time from now, in a galaxy far, far away.
You can only go. Yeah, you can only go. You can only go one long. If you go two longs, you went too long.
So long. What are we doing here?
It's not Star Wars anymore. So.
Yeah, I think so. I would love to see an Old Republic setting film with lots of Sith and lots of Jedi and lots of saber fights and intrigue, and I think that would be an amazing film.
And breakdowns of philosophy, and that
for sure. Yeah,
that moment where you question whether you're the hero or the villain in the story, and that kind of thing. The breakdown. I need to see that. So.
Yeah, where maybe the Sith don't look quite as bad as we've seen them up to here too.
Right.
I think that would be so cool.
Because the prequels focus on the corruptness of the Jedi. Well, how did they get that way? Let's have a story about that.
Yeah. Let's actually show that corruption this time instead of kind of allude to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, in The Last Jedi, they show the Prime Jedi, the dark and light coming together in that picture in the cave. Let's focus on it. Let's have a story about that.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of all that, we're actually getting some new content for Count Dooku. We're getting a little bit more character. He's being fleshed out. Obviously, we're getting Master and Apprentice to flesh out Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan a bit. What are your guys' thoughts about Count Dooku? We're getting an audio drama with sort of an audio drama / audio book with him in the near future, I believe.
At the end of this month.
Yeah. I'm really excited about that.
Yeah? How come?
Really, really excited about that because we, like Jason mentioned earlier, we just did the commentary for Attack of the Clones. And there's that scene there when he's talking to Obi-Wan and pretty much lays out the entire thing that's going on with Palpatine and him controlling the Senate and all that stuff. So I want to know when he's talking about Qui-Gon and saying, if only Qui-Gon were still alive, he would help me. There's a lot there in that synopsis.
By that, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot in the synopsis of Dooku Jedi Lost that I think will inform that scene in particular and just the characters so much more. And I think he's one of the characters that has the least written about him, aside from what you see in Clone Wars and the prequels.
Yeah, absolutely. And I from what I heard, we should be getting a first name for him too.
It's everybody's dream. Get that first name.
Dooku.
I just hope it's not Doug.
I have never liked Dooku.
Doug Dooku.
Another Doug.
I said on Twitter his first name was Yoda, and that's why everybody called him Count, because nobody wanted to get the two confused.
That'd be pretty
Dave
amazing.
brought up a big point about, Qui-Gon. What would have happened if Qui-Gon had lived? Everything would have been different. You saw that Anakin was lost without him, Obi-Wan was lost without him, Dooku was lost without him. There was a real connective tissue there, and it would really be interesting to see the connection between Qui-Gon and Dooku.
Yeah. I'd love to see a what if comic that shows what if Qui-Gon had survived. Yeah,
because he would have kept training Anakin, that plays into the whole thing. You kind of wonder where Palpatine would go next for maybe where he would have gone for his next apprentice, because he didn't know at the time.
He would have had less of a hook on Anakin because Qui-Gon would have helped Anakin feel more accepted inside himself.
Right.
And funny thing about Qui-Gon is there's an excerpt for Master and Apprentice where it's the scene where we learn that they're actually offering Qui-Gon a spot on the Jedi Council. But Mace Windu says, look, we wouldn't be doing this if we didn't have to. So it's almost like implying like they never wanted him on the council to begin with. They're just doing it out of necessity. And even then he says, I have to think about this. And then they were like, okay, that's a good answer because we wouldn't expect anybody to take it, at the drop of a hat. But it's just interesting.
Anakin was mad. He was he'd be like, "I'm done. Where's my chair?"
I'm going to push back a little bit and say that I'm not 100% sure that Anakin would have been any better off with Qui-Gon as he was with Obi-Wan. And here's why. It's because that line that Dooku says, if only Qui-Gon were still here, he would understand and join me.
Yeah.
Like, he was his apprentice. He knew Qui-Gon very well, and he seems pretty confident in that. It's not like he was just kind of like going, maybe. And the fact that the council is so reluctant to add him as a member, like, casts doubt into, like, okay, like, what exactly was Qui-Gon always up to? Like, he could have been. I don't want to say dark, but more. He was certainly gray in a lot of areas.
I could see a setup for delaying sort of what happens with Anakin. There's this idea of, like, you start life in order, you have rules, and then you have, like, the breakdown of that order, but then you have reorder. But then some people, like, never move on to those stages. Like, some people cling to that order. Some people live in the, like, we gotta, like, destroy everything.
Nothing means anything anymore.
Right. But then some people get to that point where it's like, okay, let's take these elements and rebuild it. Like, that's what I think The Last Jedi is all about. The thing
is that the fact that the council was so reluctant to take on Anakin, I think that says more about the council than it does about Anakin.
Right.
Honestly, and it's your cue that not all is well with the Jedi.
Yeah, and I could see, like, to Ben's point, like, the sort of the function and the dysfunction of the council would at some point push someone into someone down that path to be someone that Palpatine could prey upon. Could then take advantage of that, even if it wasn't maybe Anakin necessarily, but someone else. Could Ahsoka have been that person? She has some of the same tendencies that Anakin does.
She's impulsive.
Absolutely.
Well, my take on Qui-Gon was always that, and they had a comic a couple months ago that kind of went into it, is that he was just very much into the will of the living force. And I think that where he probably butted heads, this is my own headcanon, where he butted heads with the council was that they were more into the dogma of what it is to do a Jedi and the rules of being a Jedi.
Right.
Whereas Qui-Gon just kind of followed what the force was telling him to do.
Right.
Yes.
And when they came into conflict, that was the conflict. Because even in Phantom Menace, he's like, I'm training Anakin. He's the chosen one. And they're like, you can't. He's too old. You can't have two apprentices. You can't. They give him all of these rules as to why he can't. Never
what are the rules, right?
The rule was never, well, he's not the chosen one, so don't train him.
Right. Yeah, that's excellent. Excellent point. Yeah, Qui-Gon's one of my favorite characters ever. He really is.
Which is odd because he's only in the Phantom Menace, but he makes such an impression in that movie.
Yeah.
That, like, here we are 20 years later, we're still talking about him.
So good. Well, Liam Neeson
because he was onto
it,
something.
Yeah.
And they're connecting that with the sequel trilogy, I think.
Well, I think, like, out of all the Jedi that we've seen, like, to me, Qui-Gon seems the closest to the actual ideal of what the Jedi should be.
Me too.
Right.
Me too.
Absolutely. The most enlightened.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, cool. So, any big predictions coming out of Celebration? Or is there anything that, like, I mean, obviously we're gonna get a trailer. We're gonna get, talk
get a title,
yeah, stuff like that. Anything like out of the blue you think we might? Any wild ideas that you guys might have?
I still think we might get an announcement about the Benioff and Weiss movies, just because if they're going to come out, I mean, they have to have some time to do with it. I know it might take away from what's going on with with Episode 9 and The Mandalorian. They have so much stuff to promote, but I don't know. I would just love to see, like, just at the end of just to have Benioff and Weiss come out and they just at least give a concept of what they're talking about. But Dave mentioned that there's no future filmmakers panel this year, so that's kind of odd.
And it's not surprising to me because honestly, the clock is ticking. We are down the wire now as far as marketing for Episode 9. It's April.
Yeah.
Right.
So they need to get going with whatever they're planning on doing. And I think it's going to be all Episode 9 focused in various different ways.
Yeah, I think because of the less than stellar performance for Solo, I think they want to slow down some of their promotions and just really, really focus in on Episode 9. I have to imagine that there will be some talk of what we're getting in
after that
in 2020, but obviously it's going to be very limited. I'd love to know a timeline for Rian Johnson's trilogy. Like, honestly, that's as far as future Star Wars product. That's what I'm the most excited about.
Do you guys think they're going to do? I mean, they may not after Solo, but do you think they're going to do all the Benioff and Weiss movies and then do all of the Rian Johnson ones, or do you think they'll alternate between the two?
I think they'll alternate. I think they might exercise a little bit more restraint in what the spin-offs will be. So I actually think I don't know if they'll necessarily alternate between Johnson and Benioff and Weiss as much as they may let Benioff and Weiss be the new saga and have
Here's the question. Do you think Benioff and Weiss and Rian Johnson, their movies will be connected?
No, I do think those are going to be two separate things because because Kathleen Kennedy really talked up just how much they were happy with Rian Johnson and how he collaborated with Lucasfilm, and then he pitched that idea. Okay. And then I do remember separately hearing about Benioff and Weiss coming with their pitch to Lucasfilm. So
and my impression was that, well, and I may be getting it mixed up with the Mandalorian, but I thought that Johnson was talking about doing some in the future.
No, he said that it'll be in a totally different time, in a totally different place in the galaxy, with characters we've never seen before. So
just a different time. That could be front or forward or backwards.
But he has also said he's not doing Old Republic.
Right.
So I maybe there's a connection. If I had a theory, my prediction is that whatever's happening with the unknown regions could be connected to Rian Johnson. To his trilogy, but I don't expect Old Republic to be his, and I expect it to exist separately from the Benioff and Weiss material.
Old Republic just seems like such a natural fit for Benioff and Weiss. Coming off,
or some variation of pulling elements from the Old Republic. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be exactly the Old Republic, but they're going to remake it. They're going to reimagine the Old Republic, maybe.
Yeah. I don't need to have every character that we had in Knights of the Old Republic. I wouldn't mind a reimagining instead, kind of the way they handled Thrawn.
Are there any characters that you absolutely have to have? Like, do you have to have like Darth Bane or Darth Charlie or whatever that is?
Depends on how far they go back, I mean, they could go back all the way to the Prime Jedi.
Right, yeah. I would see, I like the idea of going back to the Prime Jedi rather than settling on the Old Republic, because the Old Republic already has, we already have a Sith Empire and a Jedi Empire. I like Gwnedy, I love what you're talking about, going back to the very, very beginning, to the origin, because I think that, that says...
You want to bring the Force into it.
Right, and it has a bigger cosmic impact on everything that we're talking about and everything that we're dealing with, so that even moments where you have someone like Chirrut who isn't a Jedi who has complete command of the Force, I want to know where this bigger conflict is what it's rooted in, and
so
how
people set up a big story again, because you need to if you're not going to have the episodic films anymore, if you're going to continue with Star Wars, you need to have a base again that connects all those themes that we know and love, so that we recognize the universe that we're in.
If the only thing I would like is and I haven't played I've played the Old Republic MMO, but I didn't play enough of KOTOR to know too much about Revan. But I like the idea of a Revan, being someone who's played on both sides, who's kind of experimented on both sides. And for me, I guess for me, the only thing I kind of want is I'd love to see Andrew Lincoln from The Walking Dead play a character like that in Star Wars. That's
so would Andrew Lincoln. Please call me,
guys. Right.
Already borrowed the idea behind Darth Revan for Kylo Ren, though. So they're picking pieces out of the old canons.
Yeah.
So I just wonder if they're going to continue with us Darth Revan story when they're actually having a Darth Revan story. That's the only thing about Darth.
Yeah, that's true, and that's why I don't need any of those names or specific characters. So give me a new story. We already have Knights of the Old Republic.
We could have some names
Yeah, I like what
a reimagining.
Exactly.
I like how they've handled it so far, where they've taken like the best of different aspects, like Thrawn. They brought Thrawn back, but they didn't bring, and he's recognizable
as Luke with 2 U's.
Yeah, right. They didn't
let Luke rest in peace.
I've enjoyed that. I mean, because there is a large percentage of the old expanded universe that was hot. It's just horrible. It's just horrible. So let's leave it there. And I've liked the choices that they've made so far and how they're using.
Yeah, I don't need Star Killer back. I don't need people pulling Star Destroyers out of the air, into the atmosphere. Let's get back to what Star Wars is about. So
wasn't it weren't they like cloning the Emperor like every other book or something like that?
Yes,
exactly.
Yes.
I don't need anti-force salamanders either.
Right. Thrawn had the things that you couldn't use the Force around.
Exactly. Yeah, the Isalamari or something like that. I think is what they were called. Yeah.
And what was the
bring in fairy tale elements? Go ahead. Sorry.
No. I was just going off of like things from the EU. What was the tribe that they run into? I think it's in the first Thrawn books, but they start calling Leia Lady Vader then they built it was like in some town where they built a statue of Vader.
I forgot about that.
I don't remember the tribe. I'm gonna go.
Yeah. There's some stuff when you get into the EU that that ain't great.
Yeah.
That ain't great.
Yeah. All of a sudden, the Porgs are looking a lot better.
Yeah. And in some cases, the prequels too. Right? When people give George so much crap.
The EU books before the prequels.
Yeah.
So they were referencing things that George Lucas was like, nope, didn't happen. Nope, didn't happen.
That can't happen.
I would like a little bit more Rogue Squadron back in my EU, not necessarily movie form, but I do want I do miss that little bit of an element with the Rogue Squadron books.
Books and comic books?
Yeah.
Or games.
Oh.
Books and comics, games. Yeah. I want my flight simulators again. I miss that. I love Rogue Squadron was my favorite Star Wars game, so that's one that I'd like to see make a comeback instead of another Battlefront.
The big gamer over here is Dave. He knows all the games. Don't you, Dave?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, let's see. The last Star Wars game I played was the campaign for Battlefront 2, but I don't play the multiplayer.
Yeah.
It gets so repetitive and so boring for me.
Yeah, I think that kind of thing is fun when you have a group of friends to be with, but if you're just running in by yourself getting shot, it's not quite the same.
It's like real war then.
Yeah. It's like I would love Star Wars to go like the Assassin's Creed route where you can go anywhere, you can do anything, you can do these little side missions. You go with the main story. You can pretty much do whatever you want,
right?
And not have to stick to this linear story or play multiplayer for the next year until you get an update.
Right.
It just gets so repetitive. But speaking of what we'd like to see and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I have a feeling that in the 20th anniversary panel for the Phantom Menace, because they did it with the 40th panel where they brought out guests that weren't announced. I have a feeling there could be a couple of guests that haven't been announced that show up there. And because they're making such a big push with Disney Plus, and there are rumors that Mandalorian has already been renewed for season 2.
Oh wow, I didn't hear that. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's I think Star Wars Newsnet reported that today.
Oh wow.
So if that's happening, and then we had those rumors, last year that the Hollywood Reporter said Stephen Daldry was on to direct an Obi-Wan movie. I wouldn't be surprised if they're sticking with that, but they want that as a series. They bring Ewan McGregor on stage and they make that announcement to sort of close out that panel and send Celebration off into the sunset for this year.
There would be heart attacks if Ewan McGregor.
Oh my God, I would die.
I know, right?
I always had this thought, and I thought this was going to happen in Celebration Orlando, where they bring somebody on stage in Jedi robes, but it's him, but he has his back to the audience, and he takes off the hood and he just says, "Hello there," and then everybody goes fine.
Oh my God!
I thought that would be the best surprise.
That'd be pretty amazing.
The anti-aging tech is good now, so I could totally see a Disney Plus series with it. With
just him on Tatooine.
Obi-Wan between episode 3 and 4.
Yeah.
I mean, what are you doing?
Yep.
So
yeah, and make it just like a limited one, just like not even just do like 8 episodes, 10 episodes, like and
limited series. That's all you need.
Ewan McGregor can go back to making movies,
right?
Yep. Yeah, that's a great idea. That would be amazing.
And he did Fargo a couple of years ago, so
and he was fantastic. That was an amazing season.
When we were watching Attack the Clones yesterday, we really bumped onto the fact Ewan McGregor he's the most consistent in all 3 of those movies. He's the most he makes almost everybody as charming. He is just like he's the best part of all 3 of those movies.
Yep.
So it's just like a given to give him his own show.
Yeah. However much money he wants for it, just back the truck up and just.
Right. He actually wants to do it. He's come out and said it.
Yeah.
I mean, take advantage of that.
Let's do it. Yeah. Could be like his uncle and just like hate Star Wars.
I do love that story when he talks about how he saw Star Wars for the first time. He's like, "Oh, we're just gonna go see Uncle Dennis's new movie." It ended up being Star Wars, and he's like, "Oh my god,
this is amazing!" Yeah. Well, guys, thank you so much for being on the show. Where can people find you, and what projects do you have going on? Dave, I'm going to start with you.
Sure. So you can follow the podcast page at FOTF Podcast on Twitter. My personal Twitter handle is DMT1196. And let's see, we've been actually doing a lot of stuff lately. We interviewed E.K. Johnston about Queen's Shadow. That is up on our podcast feed. Did the Attack of the Clones commentary. Interviewing Alex Kane, who wrote the making of Knights of the Republic. Interviewing him tomorrow. And we have a really cool idea that I don't even think I've told Gwnedy about this yet. But we are throwing around the idea of doing a audio drama for the podcast. I recorded an episode. It's about 2 minutes long, and we're hoping to continue that. We just have to talk to everybody about it and see how we do it going forward. But it's really exciting.
I'm totally up for that. Yeah. I have been MIA this month because I've had a career making month with my job. So I've been all over the country, but I'm back, and I can be found at Gwnedy Ren, GWENDYREN, at Upsy Daisies. That's UPSIEDAZIES.
Awesome.
I'm gonna rewatch all the Marvel movies before Endgame comes out.
Nice.
I'm on Twitter, Jason B. Williams 1. I'm on there either talking about Star Wars or complaining about the government. So honestly, I was like, because I kind of made a deal. It's like I'm not gonna talk about politics anymore on Facebook, but Twitter.
That's fantastic.
Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. We will make sure to put up links for all you guys on our website, certainpov.com. And don't forget, while you're there, you can check out other podcasts that are part of our little podcasting family, including the Scruffy Nerfers, our Star Wars D20 story, where we just stumbled through the galaxy one roll at a time with our ridiculous, crazy adventures.
Certainly non-canon.
Yeah, no, there's no way this could be canon because apparently our friend Ben here has totally made Bosk a lovable bounty hunter now. He's less fearsome and more huggable.
I bring out the best in people. What can I say?
You can follow that adventure and more podcasts on our website, again, certainpov.com. And until next time, stay scruffy, my nerf herders.